So it's a project on glass using watercolours, so painting with glass using watercolours. And maybe keep this going a week or two. I don't think it's going to be a very long project, so we could perhaps, but we'll see how it goes, how long you want it. So I thought I'd use my beer bottle. The sort of downside of painting here is the light is really flat. It's not very interesting. When I have the glass by the window there's much more interesting reflections and things like that. This one, in a way, is probably better in that it's got a bit more colour and it seems to reflect more light and catch more light. So, but it's great you brought a few things in. And if anybody needs any little bottles or any bits and bobs, there's a few in these two boxes here and a few out here. So if you want to use any of these, please do it. Talk a bit about the drawing side of it. So any of these sort of regular sort of shapes, symmetrical shapes, I find it easier to, as you can see, what I've done here is I've started drawing out the glass. I was going to start there and I decided that's a bit too high. But if you start with a cross, if you start with like a centre line, like a line of symmetry, and then across around the top, just mark some width and top and bottom. And that way you can get a nice, I'll just do it over here. If you just find a few marks out, it's a good way of getting the whole thing looking symmetrical. I find if I start with the tightest radius, like that, and just kind of drawing from my elbow and my, not sort of like this, sort of more kind of from my arm and elbow. You get that, a nice sort of smooth shape. And then if you need to make that a bit, you can almost like trace over that line if you want to make that a stronger line. So that's a nice way of keeping it symmetrical. And then the same with the rest of the talking glass. You can just kind of work your way down. The ellipse at the bottom, one thing to look for is that this one, if you're looking down on something, this one should be a slightly wider, a slightly deeper ellipse. Okay, because you're almost sort of looking down, whereas this one will be a shallower there. So you get something more like that. Sorry, that's not such a good one. That sort of thing. Does that make sense? Any questions so far? So the same sort of thing with bottle. Bits I can see it. A little ellipse at the top. So, and then just draw that in. And very quickly just try and get some shapes of that. Just coming out on the shoulder. And that's going to be fairly straight down there. And then when I come to the bottom's about there. Get a nice shape to that. So it helps draw the whole thing, draw that and then just draw that bit. The label will, again, follow the same sort of thing. So that's that bit. Some bits, so this is going to be watercolour. With the highlights, one of the things about, say, transparent or shiny objects is that you'll find that the tones change very rapidly, so you'll find that you'll get a very bright highlight, then it will go perhaps mid-tone, and then dark. So, in here, there might be like some lights reflecting here, they're quite sharp, and then perhaps some darker shadow here, and then something where I'm just kind of looking through and seeing the two tones. So that's really the key to sort of drawing or painting something that's quite sort of transparent or reflective, is getting those quick changes. In contrast, something that's quite matte, the tones will change very gradually. It'll be a very gradual tone change, so it's just something to look out for. So with the last week, I used masking fluid and I put it on with a brush. I was saying that what I tend to find works nicely is if you just dampen the brush slightly, so you haven't got a completely bone dry brush. Another way of doing it is something like a stick or a little bamboo pen or a ruling pen. You've got those metal ruling pens, they're quite good. So I've got a little bit of this on already. I'll do a little bit on the bottle. So I'm seeing some, basically the strip lights reflected here. So bits I want to keep white or very light, I can just draw those in. With the masking fluid, that's pretty much all the highlights. So that'll do for that. And then the next stage really is just gradually adding tones. I can't do this so that this will see especially. So what I'm seeing through here, a lot of this is this kind of yellowy colour of the table. So I'll just make a little bit of a yellowy colour up using some more sienna. I think that's a good colour to use. And a little bit of yellow. So pop that on there. And what I'm seeing, a reasonable size brush. It's watercolour, so it needs to go on quite quickly. Do that wash, and then actually it's a little bit. Take that a little bit lighter. It's almost like a little bit darker, where there's a bit of foam in there. Just add a grey to that, sort of around there. And then I'll let that dry. Actually, there's a little bit of up here, that's fine. So that can stay like that. So a little bit darker just on the edge here. So it's just trying to get some darker shadow. And while that's still wet, that's not, it's kind of sharp on this side, but quite soft this side. So I can just kind of soften that out a little bit. A little bit of wet and wet. The other bit that's where there's a little bit of shadow is just on the rim. So I'll put a little bit of shadow there. I've also got masking fluid here, so some of this should stay bright and white. Like that. And then the colour of the fake beer. Let's go for a sort of reddy brown, so some yellow, warm yellow, and some crimson. Get that sort of nice angry colour. This will be like the first wash, and then I can let that dry and put some more on. So. And in the middle, there's a little bit of light, so I'm going to lift that out, I think. Just dry that and just lift a little bit of colour out there where it's just reflecting. I think I would leave it at that stage, let that dry, and then pop another wash over the top. In fact, actually, this colour can go in the middle here too. So, yeah, quite a challenging subject, really. And what I'd suggest is maybe a few individual studies, just different objects. Maybe not think to make a painting to start with. Try a glass on its own, and try a bottle on its own. Just see how it goes. Something like this. You could also have it with, something like flower or a piece of fruit or something like that. If you wanted to go with it, but in a way, just a study of a single object is quite nice. Any questions? No? Good luck. I think it's really hard. I don't know whose idea this one was.